very happy and welcome to this little funny segment of time that is the days between Christmas Day and New Year's. So I've got nothing better to do than talk about all the books that I read in the last quarter. Yes, we're going by the business calendar because I did a little October video and there were some books that I didn't bring up in that because they weren't horror themed. So this is a great time to talk about them, plus what I read in November and what I've read in the month of December so far, which is quite a lot. I'm really excited to finally talk about these. This is why I wanted to make a video. As I explained in the last video, obviously we're not going anywhere, so I can't do any travel type videos for the time being. I don't even think I can go to Aunt Towers, which is a bit rubbish. I can't even leave the area that I am in. That's how strict it is. But what I can do is read books, and I have read some books. The first one is Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. If you recognize the name, this is indeed the woman who wrote Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. It's a lot shorter than that book, and it is very different as well, to the point where I don't even know if, best-selling author of, I don't even know if that's relevant other than her being a talented writer. The vague plot of Piranesi is that you have a main character, Piranesi, which isn't even really his name and it's not even how he refers to himself. But we'll get onto that, or we won't. We'll see. So Piranesi is on his own in this huge place called the House. And the house is infinite hallways and doorways and staircases. A massive building that goes on forever. As far as we can tell, that isn't even an outside. This location just goes on forever and ever. And there are all of these statues depicting different things. And this house is the only thing the main character knows. It's the only place he's aware of. So immediately you have questions of, was he born here? Has he appeared here? What's going on? It's quite strange. And because this is the only place he knows, the only way he knows about other concepts and other people is through what the statues around the house depict. And he knows that other people exist because there is one other living person that he has named the Other. I've just seen that I charged the battery, but I didn't empty the memory card. Damn it. I've got 4 minutes to finish talking about Piranesi. The Other, when I first heard of him, I think because of the cover, I expected the Other to be something inhuman, but no, it's an older gentleman who meets with Piranesi once a week or something to discuss what they've learnt about the house. So there's something he's after in this place, but Piranesi is just interested in going about his business, walking around the house, but he kind of wants to help the Other, and so he helps him look for this mystery. So I don't want to say too much because I would recommend going in blind, which is how I went in. Because bit by bit, things are gonna knot me up, or things are gonna happen that raise questions. Like he mentions his inventory, his collection of objects that he uses. Like, he says he makes soup, and you think, well, how's he making the heat for the soup? Then he mentions plastic bowls, and you go, wait, where did these come from? And so bit by bit, you start asking questions about what's going on, and what is happening slowly reveals itself. And the main highlight of the book is probably Piranesi himself. He is the sweetest, most innocent character. He is adorable. I love him. I just want to protect him. He just wants to do right by other people, and when he finds out that there might be another person that exists, he's so excited and happy. He can't believe his luck. Even though the other one he has for company isn't that great. Or maybe that is a good reason to be excited about someone else. But his way of seeing the world is just so adorable. And you just want what's best for him. The format of the book is written as diary entries that he has written, which isn't my favorite format for a book. I have bad memories of a book I hated at school that was written that way. But I didn't mind it because it was him, and the format itself raises interesting questions about what is happening. So I highly recommend it. Even if the story itself isn't that interesting to you, which it should do, it's just a weird mystery. The main character is going to get you through because he is so cute. Next on the list is another short book. You could probably call it a novella. I picked up The Woman in Black because I remember seeing the play when I was at school, and it has to be the best play that our school took us to. I loved it. I remember coming out of it and freaking other people out by putting my hood up with my coat, because I was that kind of person. I was that shitty kid. And I remember watching the Daniel Radcliffe film. So I know what's going to happen. So there is a bit of a downside that there's no real mystery. But I wanted to see what the original story was. Whether there was anything missed out. But from reading it, I think the play was pretty damn faithful. So, how do I describe them? You probably kind of know bits of it, or you suspect what it's about from other media because it is so well known. A lawyer has to go to a house of someone who's died to pick through their paperwork to figure out if anyone is owed inheritance or anything like that. They're basically just tying up the loose ends of the estate. And this house is in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by a sort of marsh that rises with the tides, so you're stuck there between certain times of night and day. And he decides it's such a pain to get out there that he'll actually stay the night and give himself more time to work through the bits in the house. And then spooky shenanigans ensue. That's it. I think it's... how scary you find it will probably depend on how much you know about it going in, and how susceptible you are to things like that. If you're the kind of person who's seeking that new thrill because you're bored of all the films, then this isn't going to get you there, but it's an interesting book anyway. And it's not going to take you long to read. I enjoyed my time with it. I'm glad I've read the original material. It's pretty cool. It's great. Would I recommend going out your way to read it if you've already seen the film? Maybe not. I don't know. Up to you. I don't regret reading it. I'm glad I've read it now. So take what you will from that. Next on the list is Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. This is my first Sanderson book. I somehow missed him. I remember seeing the Mistborn books when I was younger. For whatever reason, I just wasn't quite inspired enough to pick them up. But after watching booktubers talk about this guy, I knew I had to give it a go. Fortunately, I'm in the UK and I was all geared up to get some used copies so that I could just go through this series cheaply. But I realized that when it says part 1, it literally means part 1. I thought it was some fantasy bullshit of book 1, part 1, arc number 3. No, it's if you didn't know, the UK publishers literally took the book, tore it in half, and sold two different books. Which meant, when I realized what was going on, I had to order the second half, and it took about 2 weeks to get here. So I was sat waiting around for the other half of my book. I was so distraught. Which is why there's a number of books that happened whilst I was reading this. Way of Kings. This was fantastic. I was tempted to do a whole video just on this, and I probably should, because I have so many thoughts about it. It sold me right from the beginning, which is so rare for me these days. I actually cannot remember the last time something hooked me so quickly. So this will probably sound a little bit off-putting, but there's 3 chapters of prologue. There's one that is set really far in the past about these sort of mythical figures. And then the next one is more recent history to the events of the book. And that is the chapter that absolutely sold me. It is an assassin going into a palace of sorts to murder a king. But oh my god, I've never read anything where the action is so clear. One of the things I've discovered about Sanderson is that he can make you feel like you're watching a film, like in a way that I've tried before, or I've seen other writers try before, and it's not quite worked. Usually when you copy film language to books, you sort of trip over, but he makes it so visual. You're never lost. So you get this action, and you also get introduced to this magic system that is explained so clearly and well that you instantly get it. And that knowledge carries through for this huge action scene. So you understand what he can do, and it was just incredible. And that alone hooked me in, and even though it took a while for us to see that level of magic again, minor spoilers, but a lot of the book is around people who, this book anyway, is around people that can't do this stuff. It's kind of normal, like it's based around normal people a lot of the time. But I was just blown away by the single chapter, and I always say, no, Bobby! Bobby! My cat just hit the space bar on the microphone. God damn it. Right, let's just sort of semi-close that. She's ruining my life. Not my life. That's kind of harsh. I'm sorry, Bobby. Bobby! Why? Okay, there we go. So, you can tell I'm excited, and that's just... I don't even know that's chapter 1. That's the prologue. Oh my god. So, moving on from that, the story sort of like takes turns between a few central main characters, but I would say the vast bulk of the book switches between Kaladin and Shan, who are two very different people in in different locations. So their stories aren't quite to do with each other, but you start to see that there are some connections between them. So it's not the author just telling two different stories for the hell of it. There is reasoning. But I think in this book, Kaladin's story is probably the most... Yeah, I'd say it's the more interesting. Because the other thing that Sanderson does that I was really impressed with is the setup of the Bridgemen. There's a war camp on this place called the Shattered Plains. So there's lots of like platforms with massive chasms in between. So if the army wants to advance forward, they need to use bridges to get across, but it's too risky to have permanent bridges all the way to where they're going. So they use bridgemen to carry bridges, put them down, and then move on. So the main character Kaladin ends up in one of these crews. It's very much a punishment to be there. That's where they took the slaves, the people they don't care about. And these guys, their lives are worthless, essentially, as far as the higher-ups see them. And the description of the first run that he goes on is so brutal. He's carrying this really heavy thing with a bunch of other guys, and it's hurting his shoulder because he's not had time. He's given no time. He basically arrives and then is on a run. It's killing his shoulder because he's not got the pads that everyone else does. He doesn't even have shoes yet, I don't think, so his feet are being cut up. And he reaches a chasm, they put the bridge down, and all the bridgemen, they typically collapse when they can. And he collapses with them, and he's like, oh my god, that was the worst thing ever. Oh, okay, and we've got to carry that back as well. Oh, that's rough. And someone goes, no, we're not going back. We're doing this further. And he's like, what? And so they keep going, and it is the most horrible situation, and it's a unique situation as well. What am I trying to say? Sanderson is just great at making brutal things sound brutal, but without it being grim dark. But there's highs and lows, and this is like the lowest of the low moment for Kaladin, and Sanderson does that perfectly. And Shallan's story is very different. In this world, there are light eyes and dark eyes, and if you have light eyes, then you are going to be higher up automatically in society. And Shallan is a light-eyed, so she immediately is treated like a princess wherever she goes, basically. Even if her own situation, she's not really a princess, but she gets special privileges, and she is on a mission to steal something from someone. So, describing the plot of Shallan is probably not as interesting as her character development while she's there. So she meets Jasna, who is... Oh, Jasna, you are just fantastic. Jasna is this older woman who doesn't give a shit what people think about her. But she's treated... I mean, if Shallan is treated like a princess, Jasna is treated like a queen. She is intelligent. She only cares about learning the truth of things. She's a sort of historian, but she's out seeking some kind of truth. And Shallan very badly wants to be her ward. She wants to be her ward so that she can steal something from her, but there's a character conflict where Shallan actually just really wants to be her ward because this is the best experience of her life, being with this incredible woman, learning all these amazing things. And she's kind of sad that she has to fight with that, and she's going to have to leave that behind. And that is all I will say. I loved it so much that I immediately picked up a box set of the American edition, so I don't have to friggin' split them in half. So I am looking forward to reading more of the Stormlight Archive. New favorite book. Immediately in my top 10 of all time. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. Next is the only non-fiction in the pile. I did finish reading another one, but I think that was more in the middle of the year, so I've left that out. But this is I Will Not Be Erased by Galdem. So Galdem is, I found out, a magazine primarily for women of colour, non-binary, minority figures in publishing and journalism, I guess is probably more accurate. And it's a bunch of essays where people describe their experience, like a story from them growing up, or sometimes being a little, maybe not childhood, maybe it covers them as a young adult. I think this book, I'm blatantly not the audience, or I'm not the key audience for this book. I think if I was a young person, I think if I was younger in general, yes. If I was a younger minority person, even more so, yes. I'd probably see some similarities. However, I am just a regular old white lady. But it doesn't mean it wasn't pointless. I always want to see other perspectives of other people's lives, and it definitely delivers on that. So it was kind of interesting, and it was interesting to see some of the similarities that people have and how they're treated growing up. Yeah, so yeah, and this was great because if you want something that's just like little bite-sized essays, something you can pick up and put down, this was really good. Yeah, I'd recommend it. Next is the Book of Tokyo. Like I Will Not Be Erased, this was a great book to just like pick up and read a little bit of. So even though it's really short, I read it over probably about 5 or 6 days because I'd pick up and read 1 or 2 of the stories. It's a book of translated short stories where the common theme is that they're all set in Tokyo. And wow, some of these were really quite strange. I do really enjoy reading short story collections every now and then because it's a really quick way of getting different styles, different writers, different ideas. It's a really nice way it's a really nice palette cleanser, especially between the big books that I've been reading this year. But I do kind of struggle in that a lot of the short stories, they don't they have the thing where they just sort of end, and I don't fully get what the point of them is. Like, that's not to say I didn't enjoy it. I kind of like the weirdness of some of them. But I guess when you have a bunch of different writers, it's always going to be a bit of a mixed bag. Yeah, I don't really know what to say on this one. It was strange. You had a story that was about some sort of like werewolf style creature, but werewolf probably isn't right. Oh no, it was something like goats. A guy's hanging out with goats, and then suddenly he's being carried to the Tokyo mainland and then attacks people, and then that's it. Another one where a guy is having a picnic with his girlfriend or wife, and it's just about how she's kind of disconnected from normal human emotions. There's a story about a guy that hangs out with... He likes to collect French books or something, and then he hangs out with some foreigner women who, I don't know, work at strip clubs or something. This is weird. If you really want something to break up what you're normally reading, it's great and sure you'll get through it. But if you're not already a fan of short stories, I don't know if I convince you to pick this one up. There was some strange stuff in here. Oh boy. I can't believe how many great books I've read, or like how much I've enjoyed reading this year between The Way of Kings, Piranesi, and Ninth House. This was another one that came via booktuber recommendations. Unlike Way of Kings, I kind of feel like I should probably do a whole video based on this. It's the only book I've really done this on. You know, I've kept some notes and pages. If you just want to know how I've thought, I love this book, and that's all you need to know. So the story of Ninth House is that there's a young woman called... is she called Alex? It was a few weeks ago that I read it. I know that her name's like Galaxy. Yeah, Alex. But Alex is a nickname from Galaxy. And Alex ends up being part of a small group formed within Yale that keeps an eye on the magic societies that are also a part of Yale, like the magic houses. So there are, I guess there's 8 houses and she's in the 9th house. But what this book does so well is that it really uses magic to kind of highlight privilege and how people act when they are privileged. That, you know, there's a couple of points where people who are sort of outside of this point how insane it is that these rich kids have access to magic that can do insane stuff. And yeah, it's sort of as if saying, hey, all these rich kids just are running around with guns and no one's worried about that. This book deserves more time on it. So I might put it to one side and do a separate video just on Ninth House. If you're into sort of... Urban fantasy seems too wrong because that sort of creates images of sexy vampires. If you want modern fantasy, this is a great book. Absolutely loved it. And I will go into detail in another video because I have thoughts. And in the last 2 minutes of this memory card, I'm going to say that I finished the second Stonelight Archive book. Words of Radiance. But I've just schmoozed all over Brandon Sanderson. Oh, that sounds wrong. I love Warrior Kings and I love Words of Radiance. Seeing this story progress has just been fantastic. And in the last minute of the memory card, I'm gonna wish you a better new year. Please God, 2021 be okay. Keep reading and I'll see you later. Bye.